The movie opens with a voiceover by a teenage girl talking about how moments in your life that can define you, while it shows a montage of shots of a couple spending time together. The girl says everything in her life was simple before him, and now it's just after. Tessa, Josephine Langford, wakes up from a dream and starts to pack her room to leave for college. She is joined by her mother, Carol, Selma Blair, and her BF, best friend, Noah, Dylan Arnold. The next scene shows them driving through various city settings until they get to her new university. Carol, Noah, and Tessa make their way through the crowded dorm halls looking for her new room, B22. They open the door and are met by loud music and two girls sitting on the bed. Tessa introduces herself to her new roommate Steph, Khadija Red Thunder, who is vaping. Steph introduces Tessa to Tristan, Pia Mia. She says goodbye to both Noah and her mom. Tessa returns to her room, and Tristan is gone. Steph and Tessa chat about freaking out Carol, how Noah is Tessa's BF, not her brother as Steph believed, and still a senior in high school in Tessa's rather large book collection. Steph leaves, and Tessa unpacks. Tessa leaves her dorm early in the morning, and heads to her first class across campus. She meets Landon, Shane Paul McGee, outside of a locked classroom. Later that day, Tessa takes a shower in the dorm and realizes that her clothes fell on the ground and are all wet. She returns to her room in her towel and opens the closet door. She notices a boy sitting on Steph's bed in the closet mirror and whips around startled. She tells him she thinks he is in the wrong room. The boy tells her he is in fact in the right place, as he barely breaks his concentration from the book he is reading. She asks him to leave so that she can get dressed, but he tells her not to flatter herself, he's not even looking at her. Tessa is shown the next day at a campus coffee shop studying. A trio of people walk in, one of them being the rude boy from her room the night before. They briefly stare at each other, and he turns and walks out with his friends. Tessa goes to the library to study. She is interrupted by Steph, who tells her that they are going to a party that night. Steph helps Tessa pick out her party outfit. They make their way into the frat party, and Steph meets up with Tristan in the kitchen, kissing her. She is her GF. They head into the living room where a group of friends lays on the couch. It is the trio from the coffee shop and another guy. Steph introduces Tessa to her friends. Molly suggests that they play a game of truth or dare. Tessa says that's a kid's game, but Molly explains not the way that they play. Jace asks Tessa truth or dare, to which she chooses truth. Molly asks her where the craziest place she ever had sex was. Tessa is noticeably uncomfortable and asks to pass, and Molly picks up on it. She asks Tessa if she is a virgin. Tessa does not want to answer, so she asks for a dare. Jace dares Tessa to make out with Hardin. Hardin slowly gets up from the couch and walks over to her. They both stand up, and after a few seconds of them looking into each other's eyes, Tessa announces she's done playing the game and walks off. Tessa makes her way into a class and looks for a spot to sit. Hardin makes his way into the classroom and sits just as Professor Soto begins talking about the book Pride and Prejudice. He believes that love is something that you can turn on and off, that it isn't real. Tessa raises her hand and says that she felt the novel was ahead of its time. Class dismisses, and Hardin follows Tessa out of the building, exclaiming how much fun that was. Tessa scolds him and says that there is nothing between them. Hardin walks off, and Landon joins her. Tessa voices her disapproval of how arrogant Hardin is. Landon says that Hardin is just being Hardin and he knows him well. Landon's mother is dating the university chancellor, Chancellor Scott, who happens to be Hardin's dad. The next day, Tessa walks into the campus coffee shop and orders a drink. She notices Hardin sitting on the couch reading. Hardin approaches her as she is putting sugar in her coffee. Hardin says that he wants to show her something, a place. Tessa maintains that they need to keep their distance. Hardin responds by taking a step back from her, making Tessa laugh. Hardin tells her he'll see her around and walks away disappointed. As Tessa heads for the door, she has a change of heart and decides to join him. They have them driving in his muscle car in silence, stealing glances at one another. They come to a wooded area and proceed to walk to clearing with a lake. Hardin announces that this is his favorite place. He starts to take his shirt off and says that they are going swimming. Tessa seems uneasy because she does not have a suit. He jumps in and comments how nice the water feels. He tells her she can wear his shirt if she wants. She asks for privacy while she takes off her dress. Hardin faces away from her. He helps lower Tessa into the water, and they swim playfully. She asks him whom he loves most in the world, and he says himself. They move closer to one another, and Tessa reminds him that they are just going to be friends. Hardin says he doesn't think they can only be friends. They kiss each other. They get out of the lake, and he hands her back her dress and turns around so she can put it on. They are standing back to back on the dock. Just as she is about to redress, she slowly reaches her hand back to touch his. He turns around and starts running his hands up and down her arm and chest while breathing into her ear. He lifts her shirt up to rub her stomach and puts his fingers in her panty waistline. He can tell she is nervous. He asks if she's ever been touched before. She nods. He abruptly stops, and she turns around slightly annoyed, asking him why he quit. He says that they've got time. They next show Hardin and Tessa at a bar/grill. They receive their food and talk about Hardin not believing in love. She starts asking about his family, and he starts getting slightly defensive and upset. Tessa backs off. Just then Molly and Zed interrupt their conversation, and Hardin looks uneasy. Tessa asks him if he was embarrassed to be seen with her. He says that's not the case. Tessa then says that she plans on telling Noah about the two of them. Hardin scoffs at her and tells her nothing is going on, and that if she wants to break up with Noah, she should do it for herself, not him, because he doesn't date. Tessa is shocked and angry and slams his keys on the bar top and storms out. Hardin curses to himself knowing that he messed up. Noah comes for a surprise visit Tessa, and they go to a bonfire. Everyone meets Noah, and they sit down. Hardin is drinking, brooding and upset at seeing Noah and Tessa together. Molly suggests they play suck and blow. They each pass a playing card to each other mouth by mouth until Jace purposefully drops his right as Tessa leans in. Jace continues to make a pass at her, while Noah tells him to back off sheepishly. Hardin jumps off the log across the fire and punches Jace, and they begin to fight. They have pulled apart and Hardin storms off into the dark. Tessa and Noah are then laying together in her room watching TV. Noah falls asleep, and Tessa receives a text from Landon asking for her help. Tessa arrives at Landon's house and sees the kitchen in disarray, glasses broken. She asks what happened. Landon says that Hardin came over in rage, drunk, and started smashing things. Tessa heads out back to the pool area where Hardin is sitting taking shots of liquor. Hardin seems surprised to see her. She tells him she thought he didn't drink. He offers her a drink, but she refuses to say that he probably has had enough. He drops the bottle, and it shatters. Tess bends down to pick up the glass shard against Hardin's wishes, and she cuts her hand. He takes her upstairs to clean up her wound. Hardin, seemingly tipsy, apologizes for the way he treated her. He says that he thinks he has changed his mind about dating and tells her he is a mess. Tessa says that they are both a mess, and they begin to fool around. He tells her that she never has to cover up, not for him. They fall asleep next to each other. Tessa wakes in the early morning and realizes her mistake. She rushes back to her dorm where she sees Noah outside on his phone trying to reach her. He knows that something is going on, but his suspicions are confirmed when he sees Hardin walking up to them arguing. Tessa tries to explain herself, but Noah is too upset and leaves. She tells Hardin to go home and goes back up to her dorm. She shows up at Hardin's frat house one night after he texted her to come over. They sit on the roof outside of his window and talk about her father leaving when she was little. She also talks about how bad she feels for what she did to Noah. She says that Noah is her best friend, but Hardin is so much more. We next see Tessa in the library just as it is closing. Hardin sneaks up behind her, and they hide from the security guard. Hardin reads to Tessa in the darkened, locked library. They hear the guards circling back and make a run for it and narrowly escaping trouble. They sit in her bed and start to fool around. He takes her to a lovely apartment in town. He has agreed to water a friend of his father's plants while she is out of the country for a year. He mentions that they should live there together since she has been cut off. He took this plant-sitting gig for Tessa. They move in, and there are scenes of them hanging together falling more in love. They make it back to their apartment kissing each other as they enter. Tessa tells him that she wants him now and Hardin looks excited. They begin to have sex and Tessa is in a little pain since she is a virgin. Tessa is reading a book in their apartment when Hardin's phone keeps getting texts. Tessa picks up his phone and sees that they are from Molly. Molly tells Hardin to meet them at a bar at 9 p.m. Hardin walks in the room, and Tessa confronts him about the texts. Hardin says he has no idea what Molly is talking about and then says he is leaving. Tessa gets upset that he is leaving in the middle of their argument, but Hardin asks if she trusts him and she does. Tessa is sitting at home later that night, and Hardin won't return her texts. She gets a text from Jace telling her to meet him at another bar, and he will tell her where Hardin is. She walks in and sees Molly, Zed, Steph eating at a table. She approaches them, and Steph says she hasn't seen her since she moved out. Jace walks in with Hardin, who looks mortified and scared that Tessa is there. Molly starts telling Hardin how Tessa has been giving them all the details about their relationship and how adorable they are. She asks Hardin if there's anything he wants to tell Tessa. Molly asks Tessa if she remembers Truth or Dare. Hardin and Zed try to stop Molly, but she pulls out her phone showing Tessa a video of the night that she rejected Hardin. After Tessa had stormed out of the room, Hardin says he has a new dare, that he can get Tessa to fall in love with him and then turn it off as he snaps his fingers. Hardin starts to cry, while Molly tells her it was all a game. Hardin says that this was recorded before he got to know her. Tessa gets up from the table and storms out with Hardin following behind her. Tessa gets on a bus and goes back home. She makes up with her mom and goes to apologize to Noah.